help men specifically? Let's start with men.
So it has not been easy to bring them on board, and because we normally organize events, and then through those events we are able to have an activity and then share that information.
How differently does it affect? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so what happens is that we normally have activities for the moms and the dads, but what happens is that we get more women as opposed to the men are supposed to come, but they end up not showing up. And I'll tell you why. Mental illness, when you talk about mental illness, there is a lot of stigma and discrimination around it. So even the moms coming, when you tell them, let's come and talk, have a talk on mental illness, depression, anxiety, whatever, it is not an easy conversation. And they're not willing, there's a denial because you don't want to be associated with that kind of an illness. But when you talk about any other activity, like let's do Zumba, and then let's have a talk, then they're willing to come.
So how does postpartum, affect men differently from women? How have you seen it affecting men, and how have you seen it affecting women?
So there's postpartum depression for men. And what happens is that the man has the same signs and symptoms in terms of hopelessness, it's the sadness that engulfs because now they have a new baby, and the baby, if the mom is not okay, then of course it is bound to also affect the man as well. What happens is that the woman, we are more vocal, like we would be sometimes willing to talk about our struggles. The men are not, because of the society, they're not open to having that kind of a conversation, that they are struggling, that since the baby came they feel different, that their work has been affected by whatever they are feeling.
Yes.
So it has become very difficult for us to have the men involved in that conversation. Yet it is very, very important, because when the man is involved, then they're able to support the woman. And if they're able to support the woman, then it means that the woman is able to take care of their baby well and better. And then they don't have to feel like they're not getting the support that they need from the man, because it's all about sometimes support. If the woman has now a new baby, and for instance, they have this baby who is probably a crybaby and needs support and needs, they just need support, and the man is not coming on board to support, that in itself could also trigger depression.
So what if the men within the group, within your work, how do men do the counseling for fellow men? When it's a man who is counseling another man, do you feel as if they open up more, they are able to talk more about their depression, as opposed when maybe it's you, a lady, talking to a man?
Yes.
And the role that men can play when it comes to helping another man heal?
Yes, and that is not even just in our area. Mental illness, just generally, whenever you have these sessions, and it's a man, like even in churches, I know churches which, normally involve the men, and they call the men, the congregants, the men, to just have a discussion on mental health. They come because then they sort of feel like they can relate with whatever they're going to be told, because it's their fellow men. So of course that would work better, because even as they talk about, if you want to bring fathers together to talk about issues of mental illness that affect the fathers, and then you're bringing on board fathers who have also faced the same challenges, then they're able to relate better. So it becomes an easier conversation, and they're also willing to appear and just be part of that conversation.
Paint for me an image of how postpartum depression affects a marriage. Talk to a marriage couple right now who is going through it.
Thank you for that question, because the reason why I do this is because my marriage almost broke because of postpartum depression. And what happens is that the moment you get a baby, there's an automatic expectation that the father of the baby should be equally involved in the, bringing up the baby. Unfortunately, most of the times, sometimes we are not able to communicate how we truly want the support to look like. So the man will come, offer support, but maybe he's not doing what you really feel like is support for you. So there's a miscommunication there, because you're going to be left feeling like he's not being supportive. On his side, he's feeling like he's doing everything to support you. So he feels unappreciated when you tell him that he's not being supportive enough. So what happens? You start having arguments. He feels unappreciated. He starts, withdrawing. So he now decides he would rather be away from, the house and be away from you, as opposed to having all those arguments and disagreements. So the woman now again also feels like, he's not being supportive because he's no longer there to support me with the baby, and he's the father of the child. There was this kind of expectation, and so it definitely affects the marriage because of that. And if counseling or help doesn't come in time, then it is very possible for a divorce to happen because of that. What
you're doing is amazing. Judy, for you, you're in mentorship. Mentorship is what you're so passionate about. Why is mentorship important? Is it because motivational speakers told us to get mentorship?
Okay, I'm not a motivational speaker. What we basically do, we mentor young girls on menstruation health and raising awareness on gender-based violence, especially on rape and sexual harassment. So I picture myself like this. I'm in Nairobi. Let's say I'm an educated woman, and at times when I'm on my menstruation period, I can even lack that 50 bob for buying sanitary pads. And I'm in Nairobi, and most of the time, my county, Baringo County, has been on the limelight a lot for girls missing school, for girls going on here talking about we're going to border guys because we don't even have 50 bob. It's like everybody has abandoned them. So what I do is I talk to those girls. I tell them that I'm a call away. Just call me. Whatever I have, I'll give you. Don't go selling your bodies because of 50 bob, because that is modern day prostitution. There's no excuse for that. So our parents, in my community, my culture and my tradition, we women and girls, we're being seen like objects. We don't have a right. It's like we don't have a right to talk in front of anyone, especially the men. So if it has reached an extent that our mothers or our guardians, we don't talk to them about what we're going through. So for us, we give them a space, we give them a safe space for them to talk it out.
Here's the thing, Judy, about mentorship. Mentorship is only talking to women. You look at books, you look at the churches, you look at conferences, it all has to do with women. But who is talking to the men? Where are the mentorship programs for the men, for our boys? Because here we are, conferences for women, churches, ladies meeting, all this thing, women. But where are mentorship programs for men? Where are the conferences for men?
Okay, sorry to say this. For me, I always say that for men, somebody mentored them. They're where they are because they were mentored. Like I can say the people who are here, the men that are here, they were mentored to be there. So why are they there and they don't even think about those boys? Why should I come here? I was mentored. Yeah, why are they here? They're not mentoring those young boys there. Why do you expect so much from a woman, from a lady, and then you expect me to go back and mentor those boys for you?
Where exactly? So men are not making their own men's conferences. Yeah, us ladies, we can control our own events. Look at you, okay.
So I'll give an example of a school that I went last year. I went there basically for a mentorship program and to raise awareness on gender-based violence. And to my surprise, I got that the chairman of that school is a very big person, is a CEO, is a MD here in Nairobi, in a very big parastatal. And I got like 3 girls in class 8 and there were 15 boys. And those girls, at times you can find like 2 of them are missing. They're not in school. So when I ask them, why are you not in school? And they're saying, we have to walk like 10 kilometers to get to access sanitary pads. We don't even have to talk to our parents. We are not given that space to talk to our parents. Our parents are not there. Maybe they're drunkards or something. So I went back and found that, and it was really terrible to look for that man. And I asked him, what are you doing for your girls? You're the chairman of that school. And then he was like, hiya, kwani they miss school? And then I went about and mobilized people. We got sanitary pads for a year, for that village. That is like 300 girls for 1 year. And then from that thing, I got like 4 girls who came up, spoke to me, and they told me that, Judy, we have gone through a lot, and because of these sanitary pads and everything, we got raped.
What?
And then I asked them, why didn't you talk? And then they were like, who will I tell? Who will believe me? And every time one person talked, and then it was like she was blamed. It was like, it was your fault. What were you going to do there? And then...
Please hold your mic a bit closer.
Okay, sorry. And then she was like, I was helpless. I went there. I said no, because I trusted that guy who was my uncle. He ended up raping me, and I didn't have anyone to talk to. So on that bit, we put them up on counseling and everything, and we put them on scholarship. We have something that we call adopt an education, or adopt a girl to education. So I find scholars, I find people who can sponsor them to school. So we have 4 of them was being sponsored.
Okay. Joyce had a comment, but Joyce, before I come to you, I really need to talk to Precious. Precious, you're in the manufacturing sector, to be specific, the skincare industry.
Yes.
Now, that one is more of a female-dominated industry. How is it being in that industry, and why did you choose that industry?
Actually, I landed there by default.
Oh, really?
Yes. My baby developed eczema at 3 months. And then I was also battling with post-partum stretch marks around the waist area. So as I was looking for help for myself, I actually found everything was gravitating to, all remedies were gravitating towards natural products. And I also realized, part it that I realized many moms were using coconut oil on their babies. And there are very common and many products out there for babies, and I was wondering, why are people gravitating towards natural? So it means that the consumer is discerning of what is right and what is good for them, and they are going to the only thing that is available, which is coconut oil, which happens to be highly comedogenic, which that means your skin is not able to breathe properly. It blocks.
Coconut oil?
Yes. Coconut oil, I can explain.
Okay.
Coconut oil is liquid, but when it's cold, it's really hardens. And that's the same thing that happens in your skin. So coconut oil, that's what people gravitate. All moms
yes,
go to
on YouTube. Your industry told us to use coconut. Yes.
I'm not saying it's bad, but depending on where you're using it. If you're in a very cold place, it's not advisable, because it really thickens and solidifies a lot. Yeah, from liquid to really, it's highly comedogenic. And we find many people, many moms, because they are discerning, there are many products which are formulated for babies, but people are now looking away from products that have chemicals, toxins. They are gravitating towards natural, and they consider safe. Things like shea butter. It has gained momentum because it's safe, it's natural. You actually can use it just the way it's harvested. It's harvested and gotten from the nuts. You can use it without adding anything. And it has shelf life of 2 years.
So, how has the skincare industry influenced you and impacted you as a woman? Are you employed under the skincare industry, or do you have your own business?
I have my own business. I have my own business. So as I was researching about stretch marks, funny thing, everything was just gravitating towards natural products, natural things. So it's just getting them in the raw form and just either add value to them in a way that you add scent to them so that they smell good and they're appealing, or you just mix up with different things so that they are usable. But there's so many things you don't even need to add preservatives. And many women are now discerning, consumers are, especially because anything you use on your skin topically ends up in your bloodstream.
So do you think that the skincare industry is for the women then? Even whether it's on the African continent, on a global platform, then is the skincare industry truly for women? Do they have the best genuine interest for women in the products that we use?
What is their dominant? Not quite. Not quite. It calls for you to be very discerning to know what is in there, because at the rate where cancer is coming up, because all these products with chemicals, they end up in our bloodstream, and that's something that we probably don't know. Not many people know that. So in actual sense, whatever you apply on your skin should be able to swallow and eat.
If not, it's not good for your skin.
If not, it's not good for your skin.
My goodness. Let's head all the way up there, Abby. Abby Chebet is under the Young Achievers, right?
Yes.
Talk to me about what it is that you do, and how it is that perhaps such young, successful millennials as yourself can help break the stereotypes of millennials are lazy, that you just want microwave blessings, etc.
So I'm a third-year student at Multimedia University of Kenya.
You're also a third-year student?
Yes.
What were we doing when we were in third year, some of us, anyway?
Yeah, so as a student, I realized like we have a lot of free time in school, and I come from the rural parts of Bomet County, where most girls drop out of school because of teenage pregnancy. And what this teenage pregnancy actually causes school dropouts, and most of these girls don't get back to school after they've had like their baby maybe grown up. And another effect that this is bringing to the community is that most of the time the mothers are being blamed, and it sometimes even ends up to a beating, that is gender-based violence in the community. So I realized in most parts of Kenya, the rural parts, they see like someone who's scored really good grades in high school and gotten to a university is seen as an inspiration to the younger generation in primary schools and in secondary schools, because every parent will want to see their children excel and get good courses in the university. So I realized with this free time in the university that people can get into drugs or other vices, I can be able to use them as a solution to the girls in rural areas and be able to inspire those girls in the rural areas so that they can get back to school and even work more harder now for the benefit of their community in future. And so we have chapters in different campuses in universities. We also do menstrual hygiene training in primary schools to be able to create awareness so that we keep all the girls in schools. We also give them sanitary towels at times. And having now different chapters in different universities, there was need to train them, because now if I'm in Multimedia University and I'm the founder and we have a chapter in Dedan Kimathi University, it's not that easy to trust someone. Like, we have to go to this training and we want to send you because you're near to that school.
Here's the thing, Abby, because you specifically deal, from what I'm hearing, apart from the menstrual issue, that you also deal specifically with teenage girls, teenage pregnancy, right? What sort of help does a girl who has gone or is a victim of teenage pregnancy, what sort of help does she need from her mom, from her father, and from the school? I say the school because in our neighboring country, Tanzania, you are kicked out of school for being pregnant, and it's not like you got pregnant alone. Yeah.
Okay, most of these girls are ridiculed in school. Their esteem is put like so down, so they end up dropping out of school and then they don't get back. And most of the time, these parents don't want to understand, and they see maybe it's something like it's the mother's fault that they don't talk to these girls. So we want to bring like a conversation that you can be able to talk to this, like, in as much as you're in Form 2 and you have gotten this baby dropped out of school, go home, talk to your parents so that you're going to have this baby up, and then after 1 year or like some few months you can be able to get back to school. Because if we have like this girl who's dropped out of school in Form 2 and then we don't talk about these things, we see them as though they're doing something bad, they're going to like come with a second child, the third child. So we need to have like a conversation with them, tell them like it's not bad. In as much as you're telling these others who are not into teenage pregnancy, like, protect yourself, be keen in your bodies, be able to have like the morals in the society so that we don't have these more cases of teenage pregnancy. So we're trying to create like a link for you don't have to get pregnant, be in school up to the right time, then you can be able to do that. But in as much as that you've gotten this baby, make sure that you don't lose hope. There's hope after that.
Okay. Yeah. Jacqueline, you're in education as well, right? And I want to touch, could you also touch on that, the issue of menstrual issues, as also you remind us specifically what you do in education?
Okay, for me, I go to schools, and actually we've diversified nowadays. It's not only schools, because when you get into, especially rural areas, this is quite personal for me because I grew up in a rural area in which now you are termed as a person who may not be able to succeed just because you're coming from a school that has no resources, and a school that, I mean, even in a background that is not well off. And there is that stereotyping that you get, like, you're being told like this is for people who are well off. Yeah. So like what really happens in rural areas, like for example my home area, my neighborhood is so into alcoholism, and you find that sometimes it's quite very serious, that when a child is born, sometimes these women who are in alcoholism, they don't want to get distracted from their business, so you just give thoughts to that child to go back to sleep. So it's that serious. And sometimes you find that in these schools, you see, we tend to stereotype these kids, and we feel that they are failures just because they are coming from those backgrounds that are not really good, the backgrounds that are not really role models. And what I tend to do is that I go to these schools, I tell them that you can surpass those challenges that you're having, because I want to believe that for any person who has succeeded, they have not had the best of lives. So if you're the CS of education, how would you handle alcoholism in our communities, in our society, because of how that translates to education as well? There is one thing I do believe. if you're doing something for the people, it has to be with the people. Get to the root cause of why are we having such kind of a thing? Because first of all, you just don't pass on laws from above and expect them to get to the grassroots. Get down there and have a discussion, because this is where the aspect of human-centered design comes in. You have to get to discuss, get to the root cause, and if at all you're cutting a tree by the trunk, trust you me, it will sprout. So you have to uproot from the root cause of why this is happening. And by the fact that, and I do so much agree that we have a lot of problems in there. We have teenage pregnancies, and for them it's the same case that we are hearing here, that they do not have those sanitary towels, and they have to sleep with boda guys. And it's to an extent that, you see, even right now there is this thing in my home area that you do not, especially for the boys, you do not have to study as much, because your parents will just look for a boda somewhere and then you go there. But there is something about supply. The
economic aspect also for the girls. Exactly. So like she'll get a boda as well.
Exactly. Okay. So like for them, they do believe that you at the end of the day, when you study, it doesn't translate to an economic empowerment. So what they do, you just drop out, and your parents may maybe get you, in a way or another, get you a boda. But what that one actually translates is that we have a lot of boda people in that place. But for all of them, you see, the market is still the same one. So you do not have all that, you don't have all that money to even repay back if it was by loan. So at the end of the day, what happens is they start now doing drug abuse, which is something that we also got into, because we are even having drug abuse. A child in class 4 is taking bang, and they're telling you, like, I cannot handle my home anymore. So it has stopped to be an issue of whether I have books to an issue of what is going on in my environment.
So what's happening at home and how that translates and affects children in school. And okay,
exactly.
All right, let me talk to you. Please remind us your name and the sector that you're in.
Public service nominee.
Yes.
And so in Kenya and probably around the world, widows get not a good rap. So most of the time you find them labeled as voiceless women with invisible problems. You don't see their agenda being sort of like a whole women's agenda.
Right.
And like I said before, I started this work after seeing the many mistreatments widows were receiving in different community projects I had initiated. And so our work at Nyanam International, we are helping widows reclaim their agency, their dignity, and their freedom. And we do that through preparing them to lead the positive social changes they desire. So I'll give one example of a social change the widows have led. I come from Luo community, and in Luo culture, the name for a widow, if you translate it to English, it means wife of the grave. And so you can imagine that label, how it affects how a woman thinks about herself, how she carries herself. It's a community where literally a widow does not have the freedom to remarry, because it comes with the risk of either the new husband rejecting your children, they like, you have 3 boys, I don't have land where, for your 3 boys, or losing your children because the children are sort of, dowry was paid, so the children belong to the husband's family. So you have that really difficult decision of what to do if you choose that.
How has our African culture contributed to that?
It's part of the African culture. We think of children as belonging to the husband, not to the wife. We think of land, for example, as something that should be owned by the sons and inherited in that trajectory, and not the woman. And so, as a widow, once you don't have a husband, you lose access to all of these things. You lose access to land, you lose even a right to your own children in a particular sense. And so our work is about helping the widows get knowledge around these areas. For example, last year we did a training with Transparency International on property rights. And of the widows who attended that training, many of them didn't even have the death certificates of their husbands. None had a title deed in her name. They didn't even know the land, the plot number for the lands where they lived. And some of them in that training were already facing eviction, or some of their lands already been taken away. So this is how we are empowering the widows. We are training them on what their human rights are, and also trying to link them to resources, both financial and legal resources, on how they can reclaim what is truly theirs. And we are trying to do this not in an environment, my sister there talked about the environment. It plays a big role, and we know that we're trying to do do this in a situation where we are not telling widows, now you are supposed to take over as the leaders, but thinking about how you're going to lead yourself well and also communicate well so that your needs are heard and respected.
All right, Lillian, I purposely saved you last so you can hear all this positive story. You're the journalist here, and you're under the media category. You're saying for you, you're so passionate about telling positive stories. Why?
First of all, this is just, I think, less than 1% of the positive stories in our communities. If you looked around, this is just a very small percentage. And why I began doing this, I had worked for local media in Kenya and worked for international media, and I was fortunate enough to begin from the business desk. Then I went to development writing, and even international media, I was still doing development writing. But one thing hit me in 2015, when we rebased our GDP to a low middle class economy. We'd go to the field, bring into the stories to the newsroom, and what you would find is, if the big man didn't say anything, then there is no story. You know that. And I went to interview someone in Mukuru slums. It was a hawker, and just trying to get what is their part in GDP. Do they even understand what a lower middle class means? And when I came back to the newsroom, I asked myself, how many more of these voices go unheard? And Zizi, I've interviewed so many of these type of women and men who are doing very many positive things in their communities. And I asked myself, and as she was speaking about postpartum depression, as she spoke about widows, as she spoke about sports, I asked myself, how many people out there have all these kinds of needs, but they won't get help because these stories are nowhere in the limelight? People are so hopeless out there, because if you ask any normal Kenyan today, will tell you our country is it's so hungry, there's so much locust, our country is so corrupt. And this is a story in most
African countries. But we forget there are 23 positive stories.
You know, and this is just a fraction of them. And one time I had a discussion with someone in one of the poor countries in Africa, and she was doing a very amazing job. And when I asked people in that country what they thought about what she was doing, they were like, she's just doing something small. Our government is so much into debt. And I don't know if you guys get what I'm doing. Yeah, but part of our daily work at Impact Hub Media, our daily work is to train young boys and girls in informal settlements on how to tell these positive stories.
Wow.
My very first assignment with the very first cohort I had, we now have our second cohort. The very first cohort we had, I asked the girls, it was in Kibera slums, and I had a team of girls, and asked them, tell me one positive thing you know about your neighborhood. You know what they told me? There's so much rape in our slums. There's so much garbage. There's so much problems with the sewer system. And I tasked them to go and find something positive.
So do you think if the media told more positive stories, our society would be better?
I think so. And yeah, they've been agreeing. I think so. And why people feel hopeless is because they don't find the help that they want. Someone has postpartum depression, they think there's no hope for them until they hear her story.
Right.
Someone's child is into drugs until they hear the story of someone who's working with children into sports. They will never look for, know that there's that help. So I think, and you know what we do in our community today? People say TV ilisema, gazeti iliandika. So if people read those negative stories, then they become this one helpless lot, and they think that there are no solutions. These are all solutions here to different problems.
Well, ladies, I'm afraid our time is up. Our time is up. I'd have loved for you guys to sort of say something else again, but our time is really up and we're pressed for it. It's already 8 o'clock as I'm being told. Let's take a look at your feedback. A lot of you have been sending feedback on SMS and on text. Let me begin with the SMS. You don't say who you are or your name, but you say to Mary, I am a dangerous soccer player. So Mary, this is for you. You already have a client. I am a dangerous soccer player and it's my passion. I started playing at 10 years old until Form 4, but unfortunately I didn't get any support and therefore I couldn't continue even though I really wished to. All right, let's see what else we have. Vanessa, you say, I've heard of government officers going to homes to ensure kids are going to school, but I don't think that happens in Tabo. Young girls from the Kushade communities currently residing in Tabo are either married or staying at home to look after their siblings. Wow. One mother was surprised when she saw my dad taking me to campus to sit down for exams. Girl child education is not so important. If she doesn't want to go to school, she says she stays at home. Her 60-year-old husband was asking my aunt if he can marry me a 24-year-old. My goodness. Comment from Eldoret, you saying, your panelists are powerfully inspirational. That's true. About real challenges afflicting millions of ordinary citizens on a daily basis. These are real social changes, real social change agents, right? We have listened to politicians for so long whose focus is always the next election. Your panelists are the hope for the next generation and any vulnerable individuals. Kudos. All right, I know, right? 23 amazing, inspiring stories. How else would you have spent your Friday morning? Thank you so much for all your feedback and choosing to be part of this show. And remember, tonight, 7 p.m., if you don't have any plot, come to Kempinski and let's celebrate all these women and many more. International Women's Day is on Sunday, so send a thoughtful message to any strong women within your personal circles. Up next is Kimani Aimbugwa with Web Wars. He'll be telling us some of the things that trended on the social networks this week. So stick with us. Let's take that break.
The 4th edition of Zuri Awards is here. Are you an organization or individual supporting the gender empowerment agenda? Join us on the 6th of March 2020 at Villa Rosa Kempinski from 7 p.m. as we celebrate exceptional women who are dedicated to creating positive change and rising against all odds courageously in the face of adversity in our communities. Book a corporate table at 100,000 shillings and individuals at 10,000 shillings using Safaricom Pay bill number 749622. Zuri Awards 2020 is sponsored by Royal Media Services. Contact us on 0787 200 143. Hashtag Zuri Awards, hashtag each for equal.